Hi, welcome to Rock and Metal Invasion. My name is Steve. Coming up on the show today, I'm going to be doing retro reviews. Basically, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be reading out some reviews from the Hot Metal magazine, which is a magazine that came out in the early 90s, through the 90s. Mainly came out in Australia, but also here in New Zealand. And they reviewed and did interviews and things like that, just like pretty standard sort of heavy metal magazine. Pretty good. I kind of thought about it when I was doing my room tour video last week, and I thought when I came across those magazines that maybe it would be a good episode. So I'm going to read out some reviews, and it's kind of interesting to read a review that was done over 30 years ago, and kind of on reflection, was that a fair review? How do these albums measure up now? And I'll give you my viewpoint on the album as well. So this is the magazine. This is Hot Metal. This particular one is issue 19 from September 1990. And I'm going to read out to you the review from this particular issue for Slaughter and Stick It To You. So here's the album. Here it is, Slaughter, Stick It To You. Okay, and this is the review. Now, this is from the person reviewing it. His name is Steve Mascord. In the mid-80s, former Kiss guitarist Vinnie Vincent made a thundering debut with a solo project, but the powers that be at Chrysalis wanted more. They sacked brilliant lead singer Robert Fleischman and replaced him with a screeching pretty boy called Mark Slaughter, resulting in a soppy, insipid, limp record called All Systems Go, in which Vincent's intense axemanship was buried underneath dumb songs, irritating vocals, and wimpy harmonies. Vincent used any army of lawyers to get out of his contract, and after listening to this debut album by Mark Slaughter and VVI bassist Dana Strum's new band, you'll know that staying with them would have been a fate worse than death. On the basis of the music alone, this album sucks, even more than All Systems Go. Bereft of Vinnie's musicianship, sort of stumble, sleep, cough, splutter, and most of all wank their way through the most pitiful high-profile LP released since Warrant's excruciating debut. There are 13 titles on the track, but only one song on the vinyl, only one real song on the vinyl, the real good but stupid single Up All Night. The rest, if you hold back the vomit long enough to listen to it all, is the worst collection of poorly conceived, lame, forgettable crap you're ever likely to lay your ears on. I've heard it a million times, and I can't even cite any examples. It's that bad. He gave it 1 skull out of 5. So, yeah, I don't think he liked it. So it's interesting. Obviously that album was fairly successful. Pretty sure it went platinum. I think it's interesting too that he said that he liked the Vinnie Vincent Invasion debut, but then didn't like the follow-up or Systems Go. Fairly similar album. I mean, I'd agree. I prefer the debut, but All Systems Go, I didn't think was that much different. I like both albums. Now, Slaughter, it wasn't, to me, Slaughter wasn't anywhere near as good as Vinnie Vincent Invasion. And also, like him, I'd probably go, like he liked Up All Night. It's the one song he liked, which was the single. I was never really a big fan of that song. I was kind of surprised it was a sort of a semi-hit. Pretty basic song to me, but it was an okay song. The song I really like is Mad About You. That's a great song. Eye to Eye, Burning Bridges, they're okay. Like for me, if I was giving it a skull rating, so he gave it 1, which actually I'm surprised he didn't give it 0 after listening to reading the review. I'd probably give it 3 skulls, maybe 2.5, because I really do like Mad About You, and there's a few other songs on there I don't mind. I think the production is really good as well. So I mean, I was pretty so about the album, but the follow-up album after that was also pretty good too. It was okay. It was okay. Definitely not for me. Not as bad as what that reviewer made it out to be. But let's go on to another review. So the next one I'm going to read out is actually by the same person. So Steve Mascord again. This time he is reviewing. Now he mentioned this band in the Slaughter review. He mentioned Warrant and how he wasn't a big fan of the Warrant debut. Now he's going to be reviewing Warrant Cherry Pie. So this is the follow-up to Dirty, Rotten, Filthy, Stinking Rich. And this is from Hot Metal Magazine, issue 22. Here it is. Came out in December 1990. Alright, and here is his review of Warrant Cherry Pie. You have no idea how hard this is for me. I may never forgive myself. Warrant, the bunch of MTV morons fronted by Bret Michaels with a thyroid problem, who brought you dirty, rotten, filthy, stinking crap 2 years ago, have actually done a record that is okay. Yeah, I've said it. Everyone's least favourite jailbaiting California no-hopers have actually got good at what they do, which isn't very much at all. But at least they're going to peddle disposable, predictable, more hooks than a tackle shop pap. It may as well be bearable, and that's exactly what most of Cherry Pie is. It still lacks any interesting features, save a pop metal classic title track, but at least there are songs like Uncle Tom's Cabin and Mr. Rainmaker that kick a bit of basic butt. And Love and Stereo, I think California might bear closer inspection. Nice idea, but before you run out and buy this, I must remind you that there are still far too many mindless, written while taking a shit ballads that will make you want to puke. Now, Warrant are never going to win any awards as songwriters or musicians, but at least half this album has finally given them some credibility as party hosts. 2 skulls for the album, half for the girl in the Cherry Pie video clip. Oh, and Janie, I think you might be stretching it a bit to call yourself a song and dance man. You can't dance either. So 2.5 skulls, and Bobby Brown, the model on the front of the album, got half of the star. So, yeah, actually quite an amusing, I quite enjoy his reviews, they're quite amusing. Don't necessarily agree with them, but quite amusing. But I mean, yeah, actually, to be honest, 2.5, that doesn't seem like a bad score when you're going out of 5. Yeah, I mean, I think for me, the songs he mentioned would pretty much be my songs. It is a pop metal classic. I mean, it's, Cherry Pie. I mean, people have talked about it perhaps being a really a negative thing for them to have put that song out, but, I think that really gave them so much more exposure that they would never have had. And, hair metal was going to die anyway, whether they had released Cherry Pie or not. So, they might as well have got that success when they could. But, for me, the standout song is Uncle Tom's Cabin. So it's interesting that actually the album initially was going to be called Uncle Tom's Cabin. The record company said, we kind of feel like you just need to go out, need to give us one more good song, one more hit song. And that's when they came out with Cherry Pie. I think he came out with it pretty quickly in about 20 minutes. And yeah, the rest is history. But yeah, Uncle Tom's Cabin for me is the best song. But yeah, I also like Mr. Rainmaker. That's a good song too. And he mentioned that in the review. I also read it's a ballad. I actually don't, I'm not a big ballad guy, but I don't mind that. The first side's really solid actually on that. And I wasn't a big fan of the debut. Didn't like it at all actually, to be honest with you. So, and I mean that's my kind of thing. You might have thought, but yeah, no, I didn't particularly like it that much. But this one was a big improvement. I'd probably give it three skulls out of 5. You could definitely see the songwriting had got better. All right. So let's move on now. And actually, on that same magazine, there's another review. Right next to it. So right next to it, this is a different reviewer. This is Daryl Mason, and he's reviewing Winger, the Winger album. So I'll just get that out. Here it is. So this is In the Heart of the Young. So this is his review. Kip Winger is a great bass player, and he should get a shitload of credit for finally being able to take the role of the bassist in the hallowed realm enjoyed by the Guitar Hero. Problem is, he's been thrust into the spotlight way before he's ready. He's got his original deal on the performances he put on stage with Alice Cooper's band. But that's a damn shame. Because once you've listened to this album a few times, you can see that it would have been so much better if less pressure had been put on him to deliver the goods. Sure, the record company must have thought that with the right gear behind him, they could make his debut album, Winger, a smash hit. And they did. A video of the clips even sold a record amount of copies, but you still get the feeling it happened a little too early. Drummer Rob Morgenstein and guitarist vocalist Reb Beach have got it happening in a mega way, but the songs lack that something that makes an album a good listen again and again. It simply lacks that long-lasting flavour. And with albums hitting $20 each, it's a pretty expensive gamble to take. Sure, In the Heart of the Young has got ball-tearing, gut-kicking, ass-tearing, nose-twinking smackers like Can't Get Enough, but there aren't enough to carry it all the way through. Don't totally dismiss them though. If they stay together for a while, they may make some real classics. And at least Kip Winger really means it on this album. It's definitely from the heart, and he seems to truly believe he's doing the right thing. Two Skulls. Yeah, so, not really dissing it as much as the previous reviewer was dissing the Warrant album, while also still giving it a fairly similar score. But yeah, only 2 out of 5. And to be honest with you, for me, I'd give it 2 out of 5. I like the debut much more. For me, In the Heart of the Young, I do like Can't Get Enough, even though it has very simplistic lyrics. You should look up the lyrics for Can't Get Enough. You can tell, like, this is another example where the record company said, look, Winger put the album into the record company, and they said, hey, you need to go off and give us another song. We need another hit song, or we need a good rocking song. So he went off and wrote Can't Get Enough. And again, I think it was in about half an hour, 20 minutes or something like that. And you can tell that by the lyrics. But it's got a killer riff going through it. To me, it's a great song. But it's interesting. It's the same example as with Cherry Pie, where it's sort of the album's done, and then they're told, no, go out and do 1 or 2 more songs. And they end up producing the first single from the album. So yeah, Can't Get Enough is good. But then after that, to be honest with you, there's not a lot on here that really grabbed me. And I gave this album, a lot of listens, really wanted to get into it. But just for me, not one of their better ones. I like the follow-up. Paul, that's a great album. But there we go. It's sort of an agreement there. Okay, well, so far they haven't been overly complimentary about the hair metal bands that were coming out at the time. Let's see what they think about Danger Danger and their album Screw It. Now, this review is from the issue 35, January 1992. Well, that's a bad sign, isn't it, for all hair metal bands? Nirvana on the cover there. So let's see what they thought about Danger Danger and their album Screw It. Jeremy Schiaff is the person doing the review here. This is a perfect example of the thinking that decrees that packaging is everything, and that you really can fool some of the people a lot of the time. Now, here's what you get from Danger Danger. 5 long-haired guys, one with visible chest hair, 10 cowboy boots, a bandana or 2, 10 legs, painted with jeans, forced rhyming, couplets, a lamer than I thought possible ballad, and some posing pictures of the band inside. Okay, I'm not a fan of this genre, but Danger Danger have managed to encapsulate everything I loathe about the LA scene on Screw It. Song titles such as Slipped Her the Big One, Horny SOB, and Yeah You Want It really spell out where these guys are coming from. They know that people, girls especially, will like their looks. God knows it couldn't be their talent as musicians that they're after. And Steve, Ted, Casey, Bruno and Andy aren't afraid to offend any intelligent person's sensibilities. Come with me on a journey through the lyrical genius of Danger Danger. And I quote, firstly from Yeah, You Want It. I see you looking at me from across the room with your backstage pass from the roadie you blew. Or how about Beat the Bullet? A song that will undoubtedly go down, in history as a classic. There comes a time a man's got to draw the line. When push comes to shove, I'm always a step behind. The music is absolutely appalling. All guitar squeal, bass drones, and tepid, pathetic 4x4 drum beats. This is a totally unadventurous, not to mention talentless music for the brain dead, sexist moron to enjoy, and bollocks of the worst kind. 0 skulls. Alright, so that's our first 0 skulls. Yeah, I don't think he liked it. Probably not a big fan of this type of music, and he does actually say that in his review. So maybe he shouldn't be reviewing an album like this. But to be honest with you, I kind of agreed to some extent. I was a bit disappointed with this album. I didn't mind the dumb lyrics, but it was pretty dumb on this one. And I didn't think the songs were as good as their debut. Their debut had 3 or 4 songs I quite liked. This one had just one, Beat the Bullet. I did quite like that song. That was pretty much it. I know some people like this album. It's very collectible on vinyl. I had it on vinyl and I sold it because I just thought I'm only keeping it for one song, Beat the Bullet, and it just wasn't worth keeping. So I'd probably give it 1.5 skulls. Yeah, it's probably been generous. So there we go. I'm kind of on the same page. Now, in saying that though, this album, this came out in the mid 90s, 1995, I think. It's called For the Hard Way. Now this is a good album. You want a good hard rock album, going all the way, and the best track, one of the best hard rock songs for me anyway, of all time. Going, Going, Gone is a great song. So yeah, if you've heard Screw It and thought, it's not for me, check this album out. For people who know, they know it's good. So it's a good album. Right. So you might be thinking, hot metal, maybe you don't really like those hair metal type bands and they're pretty negative when they review them, but that wasn't always the case. So there were some positive reviews. I'm going to show you one now. Now this one is a review for the band Spread Eagle, their debut album. This is it here. I've got it down here. Spread Eagle. It's a good album. I actually meant to include that on my for fans of Guns N' Roses episode that I did a couple weeks back because it's got that GNR vibe. But anyway, let's have a look and have a read of the review for Spread Eagle. This is by a person called Ian McFarlane. It's great when you come across something as downright dangerous as New York 4-piece Spread Eagle. The album is just about the coolest debut I've heard in quite a while, full of rampaging riffs, rough vocals, utterly compelling melodies, and sensational lyrics. The songs are so damn good you can almost taste them. There's everything from full-on metal, heart-wrenching ballads, even an acoustic number, but it all works so well. Side 1 opens with Broken City, a monster of a cut which is followed immediately by the equally virulent Back on the Bitch. Switchblade Serenade commences with delicate Spanish guitar flourishes, only to be propelled into orbit with a chorus so catchy you can feel the hooks embedded in your brain. Hot Sex is one big messy hump, while Susie Suicide takes out the side with all the subtlety of an on-target Patriot missile. Ready for more on side 2? This is where it gets interesting. A more varied side, but not an ounce of intensity lost. Dead of Winter is a masterful metal ballad which is cut to pieces by the album's killer cut, an infectious punchy workout called Scratch Like a Cat. The next song, Through These Eyes, shows a more subtle, but just as effective side to the band. Wait, that's not all. Spread Eagle is an aggressive blues sleazeball. 42nd Street is all acoustic guitars, and finally Shotgun Kiss, which is an anthemic rocker not unlike Bon Jovi at their most forceful. The problem with this album is that it came out in the States last year and so far has only been released locally on cassette, which is a damn shame as this band plays some of the most honest heavy metal you're ever likely to hear. So there we go, and he gave it 5 skulls. It's the maximum you can get, which is killer. That's the 5 skulls is killer. Their rating system: 1 skull, forget it; 2 skulls, boring; 3 skulls, worth a listen; 4 skulls, worthy addition; but 5 skulls, killer. So this is killer. Kind of agree. It's pretty good. I wouldn't give it 5, I have to say, but I'd probably give it 3. It did take a little while to grow on me. I think some of the songs are just like okay, but yeah, there's some decent songs on there for sure. And yeah, it's just although it could have got put into the hair metal category, it had that sort of sleazy kind of GNR kind of vibe to it, and they're New York, so it's a little bit more attitude that is believable, I think, on that album. So yeah, worth checking out. Hard to get on vinyl, but yeah, it's a good album. All right, so let's move on to something just some more sort of straight metal rather than the sort of more the hair metal type bands. Let's just more look at what they reviewed when they were just looking at the sort of well-known, respected bands that were coming out. They were more in the just the straight up metal scene. And this is a well-known band, of course. They did a review, and this one here is from November 1990. This is issue 21. And they are reviewing Judas Priest and Painkiller. Okay. So a lot of people consider that one of their best albums. Let's have a look what they said about it when it was released. Steve Murray's doing the review here. Priest are back in the big time with Painkiller, their 14th release, and an album set to become an inspirational masterpiece for future metal generations, even eclipsing their brilliant 82 release, Screaming for Vengeance. Cool. Painkiller is 10 tracks of straight-up, high-powered British heavy metal, the sort that only Priest could deliver. It also marks the debut of new drummer Steve Travis. From the opening track, Scott's in your face with furious percussive display that seems to give the band a much-needed kick in the ass, something sadly lacking on Priest's last few albums. Helped out by the two fretboard masters that are Downing and Tipton, and of course singer Rob Halford, who screams so furiously he could punch holes in the stratosphere, delivering his best performance ever. The band have excelled. There are tracks on this album that remind me of the Priest of old. Hammer and the Anvil and Nightcrawler both have epic arrangements and monstrous riffing. A Touch of Evil is reminiscent of the diversity gained from the band's Turbo experiment, which, with tastefully layered synths in the background, I just can't pick a best track. Judas Priest have delivered the goods in a major way with Painkiller. It must be time some promoter invites them over to Australia now. Yeah, they didn't really head down our way much. But yeah, so there we go. And it was given, I'm pretty sure it was a 5-skull one. Yeah, 5 skulls. Which, I think on reflection, when you look back on it, you go, well, that's a good call, I think a lot of people will say that that's one of their better albums, and it's kind of surprising that they put out such a good album and then they split up for a while. But I guess, metal was sort of, its popularity was diminishing, and that might have had something to do with it as well. Rob Halford went off and he wanted to do sort of Pantera type metal, and definitely that Judas Priest album, they'd got heavier, but still very much Judas Priest. While I probably wouldn't give it 5 skulls, I'd give it 3 or 4, maybe 3.5. I'm a big fan of the 80s Priest. I even like Turbo and Ram It Down. I mean, they were my first 2 Judas Priest albums, so I like those albums. And for me, some of the go-to tracks come from those albums. But yeah, definitely that album is awesome. It's just a real good solid album too. So not so much like for me, like individual standout tracks. It's just the whole album. Just you play it through, and it's just you just pretty much enjoy everything. So yeah, so there we go. 5 stars for that one. All right, last one I'm going to do. This is another well-known band, and this album that they're reviewing is this one here. Megadeth, Rust in Peace. Rust in Peace. All right. So this one was reviewed in issue 20, October 1990. So over 30 years ago, the album came out. All right. Yeah, over 30 years ago. All right. So let's have a look and see Robin Dorian. I think she's the editor of this magazine. She ended up, I think, going and working for Metal Hammer later on. But she did the review, and the headline is Blistering with an exclamation mark. Okay, there it is there. Alright, so I think it's going to be a positive review. Just when Megadeth fans had given up hope of ever seeing a fourth and follow-up album to So Far So Good So What, Dave and the lads have shocked the hell out of the metal world with the release of this stunning record. The revamped Megadeth, featuring newly recruited lead guitarist Marty Friedman and drummer Nick Menza, plus original members Dave Mustaine and Dave Ellefson, bass guitar, have produced an album that is going to give Suicidal Tendencies, Testament and Slayer a run for their money as they play with Megadeth on the Clash of the Titans tour. Kicking off with Holy War / Punishment Due, Rust and Peace defines the style it means to continue with. Intricate layers of lead guitar work by Mr. Friedman, accompanied by hammering rhythm guitars from Dave Mustaine, whose vocals sting with more power and conviction than ever before. It's hard to single out highlights from this album, as each of the 11 tracks is so lyrically powerful and musically tight that it is hard to find fault with any of them. Rust in Peace is the album that has steered Megadeth right back on the path to success, in a course which will no doubt see them leaving a trail of gaping jaws in the wake of the upcoming onslaught of Europe and America. It may have been 2 years since we heard the last Megadeth album, but the wait has been well worth it. And it looks like it has been given, I think, 4.5 skulls. So the fifth skull, let's see, look, can I count? 1, 2, no, sorry, it's been given, quite hard to read actually, but I think it has been given, 4 skulls. They black out the fifth one, meaning you don't get the fifth. I think that's what's going on there. But 4 skulls, 4 out of 5. Well, I mean that's a positive review, which basically means worthy addition. Yeah, I mean I probably would have said 5 skulls, to be honest. Buy or die is what they're calling it there. So that's for me their best album. And to be honest with you, I just love that first side. The first side of this album is just so many great songs. This was actually the album that kind of got me thinking about heavier music, really, or this was one of them. I heard this, and then I went out and got Slayer. Seasons in the Abyss, I think, was next, and I didn't really go back a lot and sort of start exploring a lot of thrash, but I was definitely then open to more heavier music as the 90s came in. Obviously, I was into Painkiller, and they were a little bit heavier than a lot of the hair metal bands, but just that is, as most people I think would agree, is a fantastic album. All right, so I hope you've enjoyed hearing some of these retro reviews. To be honest with you, it's interesting. I'm close to agreeing with most of them. I think there's no shockers there. There's no I can't believe that they said this or they gave it that kind of a score. I think they were pretty much on the money. I think the people who did the reviews were really talented writers. Some good writing there. It was entertaining. So if you can track down those magazines, they'd probably be really hard to find. I was lucky to find a whole collection, but it's a good read. Pretty similar though to the Metal Hammers and the Kerrang magazines. All right, well that's it for now, and I'll catch you later.